Hey Trekkies, Dan Gunther here. Just a quick video today with some new news about the Star Trek Discovery television series. Last night, Bryan Fuller had a new interview with the Nerd World Report with Hop and Herc, in which he spent nearly 40 minutes discussing some more details on Star Trek Discovery. He covered a number of topics, including the choice to set the show in the prime timeline and some stuff about music and costuming and production design, all sorts of interesting little tidbits about the series. So let's take a look. First of all, speaking on their choice to set it in the Kelvin timeline or the prime timeline, he had this to say, basically that the choice was pretty much inconsequential, but that there was a cleanliness of keeping the series independent from the Kelvin timeline films. So that way they wouldn't have to worry about what the films are doing versus what's happening in the series. You can have those kind of two distinct universes going on at the same time. He also mentions that there was something nice about choosing the Prime universe because there are, quote, many aspects of the original series that would be fun to explore with updated production values. Next, Fuller talked a little bit about setting the series 10 years prior to Captain Kirk's 5-year mission on the Enterprise. Why did they choose that particular part of Star Trek history? Well, his answer is actually pretty interesting. He says, quote, the time period came pretty organically because we were going to try and achieve a new look for Star Trek that is very much Star Trek, but also our own interpretation of Star Trek. Basically, he said, there at the beginning of Star Trek is kind of a good place to set it because they can establish their own aesthetic of how Star Trek looks going forward from there. Speaking of aesthetic design and production values, he talked a little bit about how the more modern aesthetic of television will allow Discovery to revamp the look of familiar Star Trek aliens, as well as mixing up their expectations of what Star Trek costume design can be as well. So some of you may recall a few weeks back, we got a little teaser photo of what looks to be Andorian antennae. This could be an Andorian, it could be a new alien species, we don't know for sure, but it looks like alien design is going to play a big role in the look of the new series. He also spoke a little bit about costume design for the new series, which is something I'm really looking forward to getting a look at in particular. He said that the uniform design will be something completely different from how it looked in the cage. He says, quote, we were having a wardrobe test the other day and it was interesting to think, now we need to take these colors and put them up against the ship set colors to see what is going to be the best looking aesthetic for the show, taking in the sets and wardrobe and lighting style. Fuller also spoke a little bit about the musical approach to the show. Music is something that's always been very distinctive and very important to Star Trek, and Bryan Fuller feels that they really want to get that right. Kind of having the idea of playing homage to some of those classic tracks that we know and love. Specific music is kind of still in flux at the moment. The title theme song apparently is still in discussion at the moment. We don't know what the opening theme for the show is going to be like. He also mentions that having a live orchestra seems very important to Star Trek, and if they didn't do that, they would be the first one to not have one. So it looks as though that's something that he's hoping to carry forward from Star Trek's past. The takeaway here is that Bryan Fuller basically feels that music is a very important part of Star Trek and something that he is considering very carefully, so that makes me very happy about that. He also had this to say, which was really interesting. Our character, when we introduce the protagonist, she is called Number 1 in honor of Majel Barrett's character in the original pilot. As we were first talking about the series and talking to CBS, we said initially we'll only call the character Number 1 because in the 60s, in the first pilot, Gene Roddenberry was very progressive and had a female first officer. So since our lead character is a female first officer, I just loved that we were calling her Number 1. So some tidbits revealed there. She's a first officer, which is interesting. We hadn't heard that before, so that's pretty cool. And also that link to Majel Barrett's character in the first pilot to Star Trek is kind of interesting. Talking about future announcements for Star Trek Discovery, Fuller says they will probably have some casting announcements in October. They've apparently met with a few actors already, and there are people that Fuller has worked with before that he would love to have on Star Trek. and they're just trying to figure out everybody's schedules at the moment, but it's still very early in that process right now. So a few little interesting tidbits about the series. We will probably have some more news in the coming week, as Nicholas Meyer and Kirsten Beyer are holding a panel discussion at the Star Trek Mission New York convention next weekend. They're two of the key writers on the new series, so hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about the plot of Star Trek Discovery. Until then, thank you for watching. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Please subscribe if you haven't already, like and comment on this video. We'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on some of these new revelations about Star Trek Discovery? My name is Dan Gunther, and among other things, online I have a website, www.treklit.com, where I review Star Trek novels, both old and new. I also co-host the Literary Treks podcast with Matthew Rushing and Bruce Gibson, in which we talk about the world of Star Trek books and comics. Be sure to check out some of the other videos on this channel, including episode reviews, Star Trek product reviews, and videos about all corners of the Star Trek universe and beyond.